You ever find yourself in a moment that didn't feel like a decision? Like you didn't plan it, but when it showed up, it fit into the empty space inside you so perfectly, you didn't question it, you just let it happen? They say some moments are accidents. But this one felt like permission. It started with laughter. The kind that makes you forget how heavy you've been feeling. The kind that makes you feel seen. There were 4 of us. Wine on the table. Kids asleep upstairs. Music low, air soft. Tasha leaned in and said, "We like watching people who are real." I didn't ask what she meant. But I knew. Liam looked at my husband. Not with envy. Not with lust. Just with understanding. And my husband looked at me, and I looked back. No words. Just silence. But sometimes silence is louder than yes. "We just want to watch," she said. And we didn't say no. We didn't say anything at all. We just let it happen. And once you let something like that happen, you don't come back the same. They said they just wanted to watch. And we said yes. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. These stories aren't told to be judged. They're told because someone, somewhere, needs to know they're not the only one. I'm 32. Married for 9 years. 2 kids, 7 and 5. We live in this quiet coastal town, the kind with 1 grocery store, 1 main road, and sunsets that make you forget your phone. My husband's a good man. Steady. Kind. But he's somewhere else these days. Even when he's sitting right next to me, I feel like I'm talking across a distance I don't know how to cross anymore. He kisses me goodnight like he's clocking out. Touches me like he's folding laundry. We don't fight. But we don't laugh like we used to either. I wouldn't say I was unhappy. But I was missing something. Not a person. Not an affair. Just a spark. Something to remind me I was still in here. Then we met them, Liam and Tasha. New to town. Moved in 3 houses down. They were younger. Maybe late 20s. He had this quiet charm, the kind that doesn't ask for attention, but always has it. And her. Tasha walked into a room like she belonged in every part of it. They invited us over for a neighborhood barbecue. Nothing fancy. Just beers, burgers, background music. But something about the way they looked at each other, and then at us. It was different. Tasha had this way of talking that made you feel like you were already telling her your secrets. And Liam, he listened like every word you said mattered. We started hanging out more after that. Group dinners. Game nights. Kids running barefoot in the backyard while the adults poured another glass and leaned into the night. It felt easy. Natural. Like we'd all known each other longer than we had. But underneath it, there was something unspoken. A current. A question no one had asked out loud, but everyone felt in their bones. And me? I wasn't looking for anyone. Just a feeling. A moment that made me feel seen again. I didn't go searching for them. But when they found us, part of me had already been waiting. It was a Saturday night. Game night at their place. Just us 4. Cards on the table. Wine flowing easy. Music low in the background, something old, sultry, slow. The kids were with a sitter. And for once, it felt like we were all just adults again. Tasha poured my glass a little too full. Liam refilled my husband's before he even asked. Their smiles were wide, but their eyes said more than their words ever did. We played something silly, Never Have I Ever. You know, the kind of game that starts innocent, then slips. 1 round in, and the questions got bold. Never have I ever skinny dipped. Never have I ever kissed someone of the same sex. Never have I ever watched another couple. There was a pause. That kind of silence that tastes heavy. Liam smirked. Tasha raised her glass, eyes fixed on me. Then she said it light, like a feather. We just like watching people who are real. It's freeing. I laughed. So did my husband. But it wasn't a full laugh. It was the kind you give when you're not sure if you're in on the joke, or part of it. She didn't blink. She just kept sipping her wine, gaze soft, but locked. Liam chuckled and added, "We're just curious. People are fascinating when they forget they're being seen. My husband made some joke about reality shows, something to lighten the mood. And Tasha smiled, nodded. But that wasn't what she meant. We all knew that. The energy shifted after that. Still laughter. Still conversation. But everything felt tuned higher. The space between us smaller. The glances lasted a beat too long. A hand brushed mine when passing a bowl. A knee touched under the table and didn't move. My skin was warm, but not from the wine. And when we said our goodbyes at the door, Tasha hugged me, longer than usual. Her cheek close to mine, lips just near my ear. And she whispered, so soft I almost thought I imagined it, real as rare. We walked home in silence. My husband said nothing, neither did I. But the quiet. It wasn't empty. They laughed, but something lingered in their eyes. Like they weren't joking. And deep down I knew. Neither were we. After that night, everything in my house looked the same. But nothing felt the same. I'd fold the laundry, cook dinner, help with homework. But my mind kept slipping to that moment Tasha whispered in my ear. To the way Liam looked at me like I was something he'd already unwrapped in his head. And I hated it. I hated how it made me feel alive. At night, I'd lie in bed beside my husband. His back to me. Breath slow, steady, somewhere else. I stared at the ceiling. Heart full of things I couldn't say. I started replaying things in my mind. The compliments. The glances. The warmth of a hand brushing mine under the table. And I told myself, it's just fantasy. Just a game. I'm not doing anything. Yet. But the yet got louder every time I looked in the mirror. One night, I stayed up late. Everyone asleep. House quiet. I went into the bathroom, stood in front of the mirror. And I saw her. This woman who hadn't felt wanted in years. This woman who missed being looked at. I let the robe fall. Not for anyone else to see. Just me. But my mind wasn't quiet. It was playing scenes. Scenes that never happened, but felt dangerously close to becoming real. I felt flushed. Then guilty. Then confused. Then angry for even feeling all of it. And still, I didn't stop. I'd close my eyes and wonder if Liam had touched me. Would I have pulled away? I wasn't sure. And that scared me. The next morning, I woke up early. Sat in the kitchen with coffee and guilt. I looked at my husband across the table. The man I married. The father of my children. He was scrolling his phone, nodding at something, lost in his world. And I thought, why don't you see me anymore? Then I thought, or maybe you do, and you just don't care. And right there, in that still, quiet kitchen, I felt something break a little deeper. Until that night. When the invitation wasn't a joke anymore. It was a Friday night. Warm, thick air. The kind that clings to your skin and makes everything feel slower. Sweeter. We were back at their place. Another gathering. But this time, no games. No charades. Just music playing low, something moody, pulsing gently under the surface. Tasha opened the door barefoot, her robe hanging loose at the collarbone. Liam was behind her, 2 glasses of wine already poured. The lights were low. Candles flickering along the patio. The scent of sandalwood and something floral I couldn't name. My husband squeezed my hand when we walked in. I remember that. Like he was saying, I'm still here. We're still us. But something in me already knew. We weren't. We sat, talked, laughed. But the spaces between the words grew longer. The silences heavier. No one filled them. No one had to. We weren't pretending anymore. Tasha sat next to me. Too close. Her thigh against mine, her hand resting lightly, barely, on my wrist. She didn't speak. She just was there. And Liam. He looked at my husband. And my husband nodded. Just once. No words. But I saw it. A signal. A surrender. I remember standing up, not knowing why. I remember the way the air shifted, the way it felt like stepping onto a stage I hadn't meant to walk toward, but couldn't walk away from either. They sat across from us, Tasha and Liam. And we let them watch. No instructions, no rules, no asking, just their eyes. On us. Still, quiet, taking it all in. And for the first time in so long, I felt seen. Not as a wife, not as a mother, but as a woman. As me. Their watching didn't feel creepy. It felt reverent. Like we were art. Like we were something rare. And in that moment, as my husband touched me like he hadn't in years, and I responded like I hadn't in even longer, something inside me came alive. Like waking up from a long sleep I didn't know I was in. But when it was over, we didn't speak. Not to them. Not to each other. We got in the car, hands silent in our laps. He drove. I stared out the window. The streetlights blurred past like we were somewhere between two versions of ourselves. And when I lay in bed that night, the sheets cool against my skin, I kept hearing their breath in my head, seeing their stillness, feeling their eyes. I thought I'd feel shame, but I didn't. I felt wanted, more than I had in years. But the energy from that night, it didn't leave. It followed me, into my dreams, into my mornings, into every glance my husband and I gave each other afterward. Because nothing about us was untouched now. And that was supposed to be it. One night, one dare, but nothing was the same again. It was exactly 7 days later. The house was quiet, kids at school, my husband on a work call in the other room. I was wiping down the kitchen counter when my phone buzzed. Liam. I hadn't heard from either of them all week. No group chats. No invites. Nothing. And maybe I thought it was over. Maybe part of me hoped it was. But the message was short. Just 8 words. Just you this time. He doesn't have to come. I stared at it for so long the screen dimmed. My heart pounded, not fast like panic. Slow. Heavy. Like a drumbeat I could feel in my throat. I typed no. Deleted it. Typed, that's not a good idea. Deleted that too. Then I wrote, what time? Paused. Deleted. Closed the app. Tossed my phone across the counter like it was burning me. But the message stayed in my head, like a whisper I didn't want but couldn't unhear. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay next to my husband, who was already snoring softly, and I stared at the ceiling, that invisible message glowing behind my eyes. The next morning, I got dressed slowly. Not for anyone, but not for someone, either. A soft dress. Light perfume. Just enough. I left a note on the fridge, running errands. Be back soon. But what I was really running from was myself. When I got to their house, only Liam was there. He opened the door like he'd been waiting. Like he knew I'd come. The living room was dim. Candles everywhere. No music this time, just the sound of the wind pressing gently against the windows. He didn't reach for me. He didn't touch me. He just looked and said, "You don't have to do anything you don't want to." But that was the thing. I wanted to. Not for the touch. Not for the thrill. But for the way he looked at me like I was still whole. Like I hadn't been fading slowly for years without anyone noticing. We sat. We talked about nothing at first. Then everything. And then, without speaking, we crossed a line I'd told myself I never would. It wasn't wild. It wasn't messy. It was quiet. Almost reverent. I don't remember the details, but I remember how I felt. Seen. Not just as a wife or a mother, but as a woman. As someone with wants. With skin. With ache. When it was over, I sat there for a long time. Liam didn't say anything. He just handed me a glass of water and looked away, like he knew the weight of what we'd done. And didn't want to make it heavier. I left without saying goodbye. And when I walked through my front door, I could still smell him on my skin. My husband was in the kitchen. He smiled and said, "Hey babe, everything okay?" And I nodded, because that's what you do when the truth would ruin everything. And I told myself, at least my husband didn't touch anyone. At least it wasn't love, but lies. Lies are so good at sounding like comfort. The next gathering wasn't like the others. Same backyard. Same wine. Same candles flickering in the wind. But everything felt colder. Thinner. Like the laughter had to push harder just to make it through the air. Liam wasn't there. Tasha said he had a migraine. But the way she said it, flat, mechanical, I knew it wasn't just a headache. She barely looked at me. Didn't pour my drink. Didn't touch my arm. Didn't smile that soft, knowing smile she always had tucked in the corner of her lips. My husband was even harder to read. He didn't sit close to me. Didn't laugh at the inside jokes we used to share. Didn't ask why I was quiet. Because he already knew. He looked through me like I was a wall. Or worse, like I was a stranger in our own story. I tried. God, I tried to act normal. To make the small talk. To hold his hand under the table. He let me. But it felt like touching a mannequin. I asked him, later that night, when we got home. When the kids were in bed. When the silence between us was too thick to pretend anymore. I said, "You've been distant lately. Is something wrong?" He didn't answer at first. Just sat there, staring at the floor like the words were waiting underneath it. Then he said, "I watched." My heart stopped. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't accuse. Just stated it. I watched. But I didn't like what I saw. That was it. No follow-up. No question. No fight. Just those words. Like a weight he'd carried long enough and was finally putting down. And I sat there, frozen, staring at him. Because I didn't know what he meant. Not really. Did he mean the first night? The one where they watched, and we pretended it meant nothing? Or did he mean after? Had he seen the message? Had he followed me? Did Liam tell him? He didn't say. And I didn't ask. Because some truths are too sharp to hold without bleeding. But the look in his eyes. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment. A kind of grief you only feel when something breaks that you thought was unbreakable. And the worst part? I didn't regret what I did. I regretted what it exposed. I talk to myself in the mirror now. Not out loud. Just with my eyes. Like if I look long enough, maybe I'll find the version of me that existed before all this. Before Liam. Before Tasha. Before the silence between me and the man I still share a bed with. Most mornings I just stand there. Toothbrush in hand. Face washed clean. But nothing really feels clean anymore. And I ask myself, did I do it to feel loved? Or just to feel anything? Because I'm not sure there's a difference anymore. Some nights, I still dream of that room. The flicker of candlelight. The stillness. The way my name sounded when it was said like it mattered. But more than anything, I miss the woman I was before I knew what it felt like to be wanted by someone new. To be touched not out of routine, but with curiosity, with hunger. I miss the ignorance, the simplicity, the comfort of not knowing how easy it is to slip, how easy it is to need. And I keep telling myself it wasn't betrayal. Not in the way people mean it. It wasn't betrayal, I whisper. It was erosion. Slow, silent. Because it didn't happen in a flash. It happened in pauses, in what was missing, in words unsaid, in nights we rolled away from each other instead of closer. I didn't cheat with my body first. I cheated with my hunger, with my longing, with that ache that lives under the skin when you go years feeling invisible, feeling unkissed, untouched, unchosen. People think affairs begin with someone crossing a line. But I think they begin with someone being left behind. And no one turns to fire out of nowhere. They spark, then smoke, then flicker in corners until the room is already burning, and it's too late to put it out. That's what this was. Not lust, not rebellion. Just a quiet kind of starving, and a hand that finally held the match. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted something, not because it was right? Not because it made sense, but because you were tired. Tired of being the strong one, the quiet one, the one who waits, who gives, who fades. Tired of feeling like furniture in your own life. Useful. Familiar. Overlooked. Have you ever wanted something just to feel like you again? Even if just for a moment? I'm not here to defend what I did. I'm not proud of it. But I'm not lying to myself either. I know what it feels like to crave warmth so badly, you mistake the fire for comfort. So tell me, have you ever reached for something you knew could burn you, just to feel something move under your skin again? Drop your truths in the comments. Even if they're messy. Even if they're hard. This is a space for stories too heavy to carry alone. If this one echoed something in you, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Because the next one, it might whisper the part of your story you've never told out loud. Some affairs don't start with passion. They start with silence. The kind that creeps in slowly. The kind that wraps around your marriage like fog, soft but blinding. They start with needs you stopped speaking about. With glances you learn to ignore. With nights where you turn out the light and pretend that emptiness is normal. Sometimes, they start with people who say, "We just want to watch." But watching turns to wanting. And wanting always wants more. That's what happened. They watched. We let them. And somewhere in that strange, quiet theater of bodies and glances and unspoken permission, we lost something. Something sacred. Something soft. Something we didn't realize was holding us together until it was gone. They wanted to watch. We let them. And somewhere in the watching, we lost ourselves.